for those who are looking to level up their snowboarding, to understand their bodies a little bit better, and to apply this in a way on the mountain and off the mountain, this is it. Before we dive in, my name is Mark. I am a doctor of physical therapy and a snowboard instructor at Mount Bachelor, along with my wife Sarah, who is a yoga instructor, personal trainer, health teacher, massage therapist, etc. And we do all of this for snowboarders because we love it. We love to educate, and we want to keep you riding. Man, I always mess that up. We want to keep you riding until you're 70 plus years old. One thing you learn when you become a snowboard instructor is everything starts at the feet. So when I'm teaching a beginner, a never ever, we're learning how to initiate those movements with our feet, with our ankles, and moving up that kinetic chain, knees, hips, chest, etc., etc. Today I want to teach you how to distribute pressure evenly in your feet with something called a tripod stance. I also want to teach you how to utilize that big toe that you may or may not have been using now or in the past. I may also throw some basic exercises on how you can understand your feet better, because weirdly enough, people don't really know how to use their feet. For example, abduct their toes, stretch their toes, and grab stuff with it. You probably know someone who can do that, and it's really weird. But it's a movement pattern that we should all know and understand, because our feet are actually really, really important. All right. Past, I've also discussed foot pain and where that begins. So feet generally and boots are the most important aspect of your gear. Foot pain usually stems from the boot, but can we approach it in a different manner? Can we look at our feet in an entirely different lens? That's what we're going to talk about today. The feet are complex. You're talking about 26 different bones just in the feet alone, 100 different muscles, ligaments, tendons, things like that. There's 4 layers of muscles specifically, so you're talking about very tiny intrinsic muscles that make up the foot itself. 33 joints, 8 different movements, you get the idea, but essentially also 2 pieces, large pieces of fascia, which is a connective tissue that supports that arch. So, tripod stance, what is it? Tripod, just like it sounds, it's a tripod, right? So 3 legs like so. It is generally understood as one of the strongest shapes, geometric shapes around. That's why you see it in a lot of bridges, buildings, things like that. But we can also view it in our feet as well. I'm gonna grab something for you. It is my nifty difty foot model. Okay, so what are we looking at here? So that's upside down. It's the right foot. This is your ankle, and generally set something like that. And what we're doing here is, if we're looking on a top-down approach, this is just fixing this. Top-down approach, so my right foot. Essentially what we're looking for in that tripod stance is 3 points of pressure. So generally it's gonna be right around here at the base of the mets, and then you have the base of the ankle right here. So if I turn this over, you can look at it in 3 points like so. So let's look at my foot. Don't mind my toenail. So here's my foot. It's a pretty nice foot, if I say so myself. Now if I go underneath that, can you see that arch that I seem to be forming like so? Now what I'm looking for is pressure on the base of my big toe, pressure on the outside of my little toe, and then pressure on the bottom of my heel. And when I look down, I can naturally form that arch. You see that? And an easier way to do that is lift my big toe up, and what that's doing is that's going to stretch that plantar fascia underneath, which forces that arch. Now I don't want to obviously walk around with a big toe up because it's not realistic, but I can generally practice feeling those 3 points of contact called the tripod stance. Now, here's the problem, right? The problem with the tripod stance, the way I just described it, is you don't put pressure on that big toe. And now, what I want is you to put pressure on that big toe, right? So very confusing. So 3 points of contact, but I want you to push down that big toe. So I have my tripod stance. I'm also using that big toe, putting pressure through it. Now, why do I do that? Because the big toe is there to add more foundation to that base. Just like our thumb, opposable thumb, it's there to aid in stability, it's there to aid in balance. That's the entire reason why. And we have training tools to do that with. Let's check that out. What is this? This is called a Mobo board. This is super fancy, made by really, really smart guy, Jay DeCarey, very knowledgeable physical therapist. But essentially this is a tool to help you with that pressure. All right, so you don't necessarily need this. Is it a sweet tool? 100% it is, okay? Obviously, right foot and what's happening right now. So you see there's a nice large gaping hole right here to put less pressure on those little 4 piglets, more pressure on that big toe. Now, the nice thing, cool thing about this is I'm able to balance if I need to. And what this is teaching me, this is retraining my brain and movement patterns to put more pressure, not only within that big toe because it's there, but also I can work on that tripod stance of pressure at 3 points. So you can do a lot of things with this. I can balance, I can do single leg, stability, strength, etc., etc. But the point being, I will tend to balance on this at my desk just to retrain my brain to be able to use that big toe because it's there, because I have developed poor movement patterns in the past, and because I know it's going to help my snowboarding in the future. Okay, so what are some other things to help you get a better feel, pun intended, of how your feet work and how do they move? So there's thousands of exercises and mobility and strength movements out there, but I'm just going to teach you a couple basic ones today. You've probably heard about them. They're very, very common in the rehab world, but let's take a look. All right, first one, abducting the toes. So spreading them, bringing them back together. Spreading them, bringing them back together. Okay, next one, I can grab, so I can put a towel or marbles underneath those toes. I can grab things with them. Again, that's naturally forming that arch, which is great. And then flattening back out, so I can grab, for something like grab my fake foot thing. I almost got it. There we go. Cool. All right, other things, I can raise those toes up. I can stretch the plantar fascia and then put it back down. Raise those toes up, put it back down. All right, another one that I like to show as well is a tippy toe squat. So what's that doing? That's changing that pressure to those 2 points in our forefoot, but essentially it's also aiding balance, some foot strength in general, some obvious calf strength, coming back down. But it's also really teaching me to apply pressure in that big toe like we've been talking about. All right, obviously we don't walk around on our tiptoes, but it teaches me where that force, that pressure is in space, especially while exercising. So how can I apply this to my normal day-to-day exercise? So obviously I would start close chained. So for something, for example, like a static squat or a static lunge or split squat, something like that, really focusing on where those pressure points are in your feet, in your toes. Once you feel like you've mastered that, try adding a bit more of those dynamic-based strength movements that we've discussed in the past, or whatever you find most entertaining or effective for you. Then adding in something more dynamic like a jumping squat or like a walking RDL or anything like that. It's going to keep you moving, but also force you to reset, readjust at the end of it. So like anything, this is going to take practice. I know it seems weird, it's going to seem awkward, but it's very, very important and something I teach almost all of my athletes in regards to how their feet work and how important it actually is in applying it towards your day-to-day and applying it towards your activity, sport, whatever that may be, especially as you get older. If you are under 30s, 40s, this is fantastic. I would not miss a beat and trying to apply this into my life. You've seen the craze of the barefoot shoe sensation. There's a reason for that, and this is just another piece to that pie. But for those who are looking to level up their snowboarding, to understand their bodies a little bit better, and to apply this in a way on the mountain and off the mountain, this is it. I mean, this is what I would be working on in addition, supplementary to an actual strength-based program like shred, like the body weight strength, or whatever it is you're currently doing in prep or in season or even post season. So that's it. That's all I've got for you today. I've been thinking about this a lot. Hopefully I was able to verbalize, there we go, what my mind is thinking and trying to apply it towards a broader audience. For those of you who are starting your season soon, I'm very jealous. We are about a month and a half away or so, so we'll see. Hopefully it snows here soon. It's definitely getting colder. I'm gonna stop talking. Thanks so much for joining me. I will see you all next time.